The current collective bargaining agreement expires on October 31st, and both Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and the WNBA Players Association have yet to come to an agreement. Let's discuss what we've seen so far.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, everyone. Kalia Butler here. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. Again, there's so many exciting things that are happening within women's basketball. We know that the finals are over. However, there's still so much more to talk about because college is quickly approaching. We're going to talk about what South Carolina is going to look like this season with some breaking news for their roster, as well as UConn being able to have their first exhibition match today. But I can't talk about all these things alone. With me is my co-host, Sophia Jones. Sophia, how are you today?
I'm doing great. It's the first WNBA finals-less show that we've done. So I'm excited for this kind of new chapter, I guess you could say.
Yeah, this is really going to test our ball knowledge now. And, the young kids now, do they even know ball? We know ball. So we're going to prove that in these upcoming segments. Today, we're still going to touch on the WNBA a little bit because obviously the CBA negotiations are set to end at the end of the month. October 31st is the deadline. And they kind of sneakily made some arrangements within the deal. However, it came out like right before the fourth game for the WNBA finals. So I feel like there wasn't a lot of attention that was brought to it, but the most substantial part of it right now is that the proposal still does not include a supermax salary, which is what they were arguing for, and it will not exceed $1 million within the first year of a deal. Right now, it's going to be, the supermax is going to be closer to $850,000 with a veteran minimum of $300,000. Increase from what we've seen. However, when we're thinking of some of these superstars in the league, like a Caitlin Clark, like an Angel Reese, like a Paige Beckers, I don't think them getting $1 million for what they have done for the league. And obviously there's more to this, but it's not unrealistic for them to be able to earn that sort of money from the WNBA. So Sophia, what are you seeing from these agreements so far?
Yeah, I mean, just aside from the fact that they can't come to any agreements right now, the WNBA has also denied a fixed salary model that is not tied to league revenue. And I think that's why some of these WNBA players have an issue with that number of the Supermax close to 850,000, because when you consider the value that some of these teams have plus league revenue, all basketball revenue, TV deals, ticket sales, all of that is still not entirely proportional. And so under the current CBA, WNBA players receive 9.3% of revenue. And just to like put that into a little bit of comparison, NBA players get about 50% of basketball related revenue. And I think that's just why with that number, yes, it's an increase, but the players just still don't feel like it's where it should be because it's not proportional.
Yeah, and we think of, you bring up a good point, the value that some of these teams have right now. Obviously, we'll go with the WNBA champions, the Las Vegas Aces. I think this was a really big part where back in 2021, when Mark Davis had bought the team, also the owner of the Las Vegas Raiders, he bought the team for $2 million. Now they're valued at $310 million. And that's just within a 4-year span. So that shows the boom of the WNBA, showing that people are watching it, that these teams have value. When you have the MVP on your roster, you have a lot of value, and people are putting money towards these teams. And even when you think of, you're a great example for this, the expansion teams with the Valkyries, another team that has been selling out crowds and having a consistent fan base. And this was just their first season and being able to make a playoff run for a little bit as well. these teams all have a lot of value and they all have money. If a team is worth $310 million, you can't, in my opinion, I can't see how Asia Wilson shouldn't be having a supermax contract that's more than $850K. And I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, well, you know, they make money outside of the WNBA. That's great and all, but NBA players don't have to have a job outside of the NBA. They have their own agreements, they have other stuff, but even a rookie can be making a minimum of $1 million a year. And he might see the court from the bench. So if on the opposing side, if you have Asia Wilson, who is not going to be worth at least $1 million while she is playing, and even veterans, like if you're only throwing Tina Charles $300K and she's been in the league for like 20 years, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And it all goes back to the revenue aspect of things. If we have seen that every single year, and again, I think Vegas is a prime example. They were used to be 2 million, now they're worth 310 million. If you were getting a portion of that, the players should be getting paid more, is what it should look like on paper.
I agree. Even looking at that expansion fee where Mark Davis, he paid 2 million. Joe Lacob for the Golden State Valkyries, he paid 50. Now the price tags are looking in the 200 millions. And that's just a direct reflection of the growth that the WNBA has seen that is not reflected in these WNBA players' salaries. I think that million number or $1 million marker is what a lot of players are looking at to try to get that supermax close to that range, if not that or exceeding. And I think it makes a lot of sense. And when we talk about the revenues, again, that's ticket sales, TV deals, licensing, and merchandise. And so when you talk about, or when Kathy boasts about the TV deal that she got these WNBA players worth billions, that's amazing. But the players aren't really seeing a lot of that same money trickle down. And even just with these ticket sales or merchandise, I can tell you from experience, I my family, everyone's asking, hey, can you go into the Valkyries team shop so you can use your discount for me? And I'm out I think my parents have more Valkyries gear potentially than I do because they're just buying it all up. But that's the exact type of stuff that the overall kind of organizations are profiting from, that again aren't really trickling down to the players, which is why they're advocating for that share of revenue.
Even when you speak about the TV deals back in July of 2024, the WNBA had announced a new 11-year media rights deal, which would feature spot partnerships with Disney, Amazon Prime, and new rights holder NBC Universal. Those are really big names that are going to be able to hold WNBA games, which naturally, if you're not really a WNBA fan or watcher, you could be clicking through channels and just maybe end up on a WNBA game, right? Maybe you become a fan off of that. However, that means there's more eyes, there's more revenue. They have this new media rights deal where it's a lot easier to access WNBA games. And naturally, that should have a trickle down effect when you're thinking about everybody paid for a ticket in those stands, essentially. Everyone has a shirt on, which they most likely bought off of somewhere, that still should be trickling down to the players. And, you know, Nafisa Collier speaks about it so much. It's just, if you want to maintain the product that is on the court, you have to be paying them enough to do so. And even when I think about player salaries prior to even what we're seeing now, the fact that WNBA players had to, and again, obviously there was less viewership, but the fact that they still had to go overseas and have other jobs or work part-time. You're part-time, I'm not saying any of them were, but you could be a part-time secretary and also be in the WNBA. That's very difficult for anyone to manage, being an athlete that at such a high level like that. So it's wonderful that they can have these solid, and again, we're not saying that $300,000 isn't a substantial amount of money, but it should still reflect what the league is actually earning. And that's all that they're really arguing, because that's what the NBA gets. And if they're supposed to, in some ways, be part of the NBA or have that partnership between the two, if they're going to be the WNBA, a lot of that should have similarities with it.
100%. And I think that there is a lot of pressure on these two groups now as well to come to an agreement before that October 31st deadline. And they could potentially agree to an extension. Back in 2019, both parties agreed to a 60-day one. But just throwing around some key dates that might put even more pressure on these two parties to get this done. Last year's draft lottery was November 17th. Last year's expansion draft was December 6th. Free agency is in January, February. We know a lot of players had their contracts expire for this particular offseason. And so those are just a couple of ones that are coming up very quickly. And I know every single coach has probably already started thinking about next season, even Becky Hammond, most likely. So they're going to want to be able to get this up and rolling. The WNBA does not want to experience a lockout or a stoppage of work.
Yes, absolutely. Important dates coming up and important news coming up with South Carolina's roster as well. We'll get into that right now after our little ad break. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with brand new Peloton cross-training. Cross-training tread powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training. With your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. I love how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weights, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton cross-country training tread plus today at onepeloton.com. Breaking news happening in South Carolina today. Chloe Kitts will be out for the season with an ACL tear, which was announced earlier this morning officially, as she had also had a response to it on her Instagram, as well as South Carolina, saying that she had tore her ACL and will not be here the remainder of the season. We're not exactly sure where or how she received the ACL tear. We can only imagine that was likely in practice, but it will require surgery. That was said to happen at some point this week. But Chloe Kitts, that's a tough one to lose. Going into her senior year has been a really powerful forward for South Carolina. And it's been great because we've seen her evolve every single season. And it seems like this, final season, the senior year could have been an even bigger breakthrough one for her. Unfortunately, will be out. Sophia, what is the impact of Chloe Kitts for the Gamecocks?
It's a major blow. I mean, just to put it bluntly, she's their starting forward. Last season, she averaged 10 points and 7.7 rebounds, which for a really, really even and bench heavy South Carolina team, I guess is the best way to put it, is really good numbers. She was the MVP of the SEC tournament last season and the Birmingham 2 regional. So she has the accolades, she has the numbers, and this was just going to be the year that I felt like it could click for her, especially after South Carolina's disappointing loss in the national championship last season. But big blow not having Chloe Kitts. You talked about the evolution of her game. We've seen her develop to not be just back to the basket, but also really have that face-up ability. She can stretch the floor. Great, outstanding length and a defensive presence. We all know the Dawn Staley School of Defense. So she really just does it on both ends of the floor. And especially when you've grown up in a program like that and you're entering your senior season, you're seen a lot as a leader. And so you could only imagine the loss of her voice on the court is going to be a major impact, unfortunately, for the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. Obviously, her just being a vocal leader on the bench still, I can only assume But we also just have to look at what she will be like to just some of the younger players on this team. And we think of an incoming transfer with Ta'Niyah Latson, not necessarily a younger player, but a player that can maybe help put some of the South Carolina players on a good track still when we're thinking of some of the players that will be out for the Gamecocks this season. Obviously, she's not going to replace Chloe Kitts considering her size. She's 5'8". Chloe Kitts is like 6'3". But when we think of Pow Pow being in the WNBA now, no longer having Bree Hall or Malaysia Fulwiley, she could come in and have some substantial assistance when it comes to just having some control of the court and the offense. I am interested to see, and again, as you mentioned, a very bench heavy team as well. So there are going to be people that can step up for Chloe, but she is going to be a loss. But Ta'Niyah Latson, again, as I mentioned, she's averaging 25 points last season, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and shooting 45% from the field. So as big of a blow as there is with Chloe being gone, there's also a really fresh face coming in too, who had a lot of experience leaving Florida State.
Exactly. And I think if you're South Carolina during the offseason, that could be considering winning the transfer portal. I mean, she was the NCAA women's leading scorer last season. She's just a hooper, can put the ball in basket, such a dynamic playmaker, and I think she can really help fit into the South Carolina offense, especially when you're losing a primary scorer in Chloe Kitts. But I would also bring up Joyce Edwards. She was a freshman that really stepped up last season. She's a bit more of that front court player that we can see fill the shoes of Chloe Kitts a bit, as well as Ashlyn Watkins. And Watkins said in late July she's taking time away from basketball, but hopes to return for the 2026-27 season. Last season, she had an ACL injury against Mississippi State on January 5th that cut short her junior season. And then in November 24, she missed team season opener after she was suspended following an August 2024 arrest on assault, battery, and kidnapping charges that were later dismissed. So that's a lot of front court presence that's gone for South Carolina that Joyce Edwards is going to have to really rise to the occasion. But I think she can do it. She was a really major factor for them during their Final Four and just March Madness run in general. And she can be that player. We've seen Dawn Staley's players always seem to really evolve their games when they're under her tutelage. And I can imagine the same exact thing is going to happen for Joyce Edwards. And as a sophomore, there's going to be a bit more responsibility on her shoulders. But she has kind of that calm, cool, collected personality to, in my opinion, I think, handle it.
Yeah, and you bring up a great point too. South Carolina, no matter what, will be okay. There are just way too many weapons on that team, and I believe every roster really has this, but I feel like especially when you think of some of the powerhouses within women's basketball, women's college basketball, it is a next woman up mindset. They understand injuries can happen, or even just if a player is not having a great game that day. There's always somebody else that can step up, and that's the benefits of having such a well-rounded roster. And as you speak about Joyce Edwards, she's a rising sophomore, and there's still so much room to grow for so many players from South Carolina. We saw it with Chloe Kitts and what she looked like freshman year to heading into her senior season this year. And ideally, hopefully she will be able to recover this season and come back and play next season. But either way, it's hard to be a South Carolina team that has Dawn Staley that is just encouraging them, giving them confidence, giving them, as you said, all the tutelage in the world. So they will be okay going into the season, but was breaking news today that Chloe Kitts will be out for the remainder of the season with an ACL tear. However, UConn is the national defending champions are going to be playing their first game of the season, exhibition game, of course, but we'll be able to see the first looks at them without Paige Bueckers this season right after this.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. You can identify that you aren't saving as much as you thought. Monarch helps you notice an inefficient investment allocation and discovering forgotten 401ks from past jobs. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA.
Exciting time for UConn playing their first exhibition game against Boston College today. That game kicks off 2 p.m. Eastern, so a midday Monday game. Screams exhibition match real bad. But UConn is returning their final four most outstanding players, Azzi Fudd and National Freshman of the Year, Sarah Strong. I love me some Sarah Strong. They're going to go ahead and lead this season, as well as core members and juniors, KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade. Obviously, Paige Beckers has moved on and is killing it in the WNBA. Rookie of the Year. However, they still have a lot of core threats for this UConn team that can make them a really big contender to maybe win back-to-back titles, especially thinking of they saw South Carolina in the championship last year. And honestly, they had a clean win with that one. With South Carolina, we know that they'll still be in good hands, but missing some core parts still, and with Chloe Kitts especially going out, it gives them a really good chance to see what UConn can maybe look like as a back-to-back defending champions. We don't know.
We don't know because, of course, we've never seen UConn win back-to-back championships before. But yeah, it's interesting because when official practices first kind of started around, Gino Auriemma, head coach of the UConn Huskies, was asked about it, and he was kind of, I would say typical Gino, where he's a little bit, I don't know, I can't think of the right word right now, but he was saying we lost, our player. We lost our best player to the WNBA, our number one pick. There's not a ton to be like super smiley about right now. But then we turn to a couple weeks later where we were just talking about the TikTok that KK Arnold and I think it was Sarah Strong did, where they're like hanging on the basket or the goalpost of the basket, and Gino's there like smiling, like tapping their bellies and just being like kind of a grandpa. And I think that is the resemblance of this UConn Huskies team, where yes, they had some losses, but you also gain a lot. You have gained a lot just through the improvement of your core players. I mean, Azzi Fudd, she's going to be a lottery pick in this upcoming WNBA draft. She can shoot the lights out of the gym. I think that with her kind of more so at the center of everything, as I expect her to be this season, we'll really see more from her, probably more consistency from her. And then, I mean, National Freshman of the Year, Sarah Strong, that's another player that she had such amazing composure and a very high level of skill already in her first season, which I think that can only increase and rise in her sophomore year. And I'm really excited to see her development, but she's someone too that she can go get buckets. She moves with such just a shifty smoothness on the court, and it'll be really interesting to watch how her and AZ kind of control the front court, back court element, because AZ is strong too. That's a big guard. She's a big guard, and Sarah Strong, she can step out into the perimeter as well. So it'll be a full force UConn Huskies team.
You're right. And honestly, I believe AZ's like 5'10", 5'11", but as you mentioned, she is so strong. Like genuinely, you would think she's 6'3", just the way that she moves. She's like an Alyssa Thomas in college right now. Like she already has the build of Alyssa Thomas, and this is and this is gonna be her senior year, correct? She has just grown every single season, and obviously just seeing her bounce back, even her between her and Paige, seeing their bounce back from injury to honestly be looking like they're playing their best level of basketball yet, and this is post injury, is so incredibly impressive. And I need to see what their rehab looks like, because UConn is clearly not playing around with that rehab, because their players bounced back and won a national championship after injury. But even when you think of some of the juniors with the KK Arnold and Ashlyn Shade, there's so many other players that it's just everybody can go out and get a bucket. And Sarah Strong is somebody that really stands out to me as well, because as you mentioned, she's very shifty. She's big, but she moves incredibly light on her feet. She's a talented rebounder. I think when I knew was like, oh, she's gonna be crazy, was when they were playing Tennessee. And she played such a big part in just like their comeback in that game. And you mentioned her composure as well, being a freshman and understanding that she needed to rise to the occasion. And she got her teammates going. She got Azzi going in that game. She got Paige going in that game. That was when I was just like, oh yeah, she's a real problem. Because if you're getting your senior leadership, your vets on the team, essentially your upperclassmen to get going as the powerhouse as you are, it was in a very impressive game for her in my eyes. And that was just a crazy game in general. I love seeing those games. I love that crossover. But I'm also curious to see what UConn's going to look like in the Big East. As somebody who has, I was a manager for the women's basketball team at DePaul. I've been to UConn. Such a fun experience. But they don't have, and I want to say this lightly, they don't have substantial competitors in the Big East. That is why they go and play these SEC games, which is fantastic for the growth of the sport, and just also see where they're at before they go into March Madness. But realistically, every season it's a clear like they're gonna win. As soon as they came back to the conference, it's clear they're gonna win the Big East. Like DePaul was the powerhouse, but they came back and they were like, JK, take over your trap. Like this is our place now. And when you think of some really strong programs in the Big East, like I think of Marquette, Villanova, there are strong programs, but nobody is going to be as dominant as UConn. So sometimes I wonder how that looks like for them, where it's just like, yeah, they're going up against good competition, but you're not necessarily going up against SEC schools consistently. But they were still able to win the national championship. So I'm very curious to see how they will navigate this season as well.
Definitely. I think one of the biggest, you mentioned that Tennessee game, but I would throw out another game that was like, moment last season was when UConn went to South Carolina
Mm,
and beat the brakes off of the Gamecocks,
yeah.
which that is not, I forget what the exact record was, but South Carolina hadn't lost in a cool minute at home, and UConn just
A
dominated
cool minute. That
a
part.
cool minute. And UConn just dominated. So that was another moment where it was like, okay, now we've seen them against what could be. This is back then when we were
Yeah.
thinking, oh, we've seen what they can look like against a potential national champion. I mean,
Mhm.
it did end up being that, but UConn, they showed out. And I think sometimes even, or just having that good variety in your schedule as well, to have those tough competitions so that by the time you get to the tournament you're ready, I think is super valuable. And UConn, most likely they do it again. And just again, that's another one of those teams where you look at the bench and the depth, and it's so hard to just look over. It's like that LeBron meme when Kawhi is checking into the game. Like it's never someone you want. I'm I'm looking forward
Let
even
me
to
share with you
seeing.
one of my favorite memes. So,
Yeah. Oh, exactly. That's what it is. But even Blanca Quinonez, she's an incoming freshman for the Huskies, and she's originally from Ecuador, but she spent the last 4 years playing professionally in Italy, and Gino said that she's a mature player for someone just starting her first year of college basketball. We saw the maturity in Sarah Strong, so that's another player I definitely think you can look to. And again, when the opposing team sees them come off the bench, if she is even coming off the bench, it's not a good feeling.
And I like that you bring that up too, especially the fact that she played in Italy, because Gino really likes to kind of reflect or mirror what the Europeans do, specifically when it comes to having heavy practices as opposed to games. Gino hates AAU. He has made that very clear. He doesn't like just this game after game after game. He loves a good practice. That is his thing. He wants his players to practice as much as possible. And then whatever, you have a game like once a week, whatever the case may be. So I think it's very interesting to see him, capture some of these overseas players now. And honestly, this has probably been the most overseas players that we've really seen on the UConn roster in some time. I think that's because he really just loves the style of they are going to practice very heavily in Europe. And it does translate to gameplay, though. It's not just continuous gameplay after gameplay, which obviously we know the value in that as well. But that reflects what he likes and what he contributes to or attributes as their success for their team. So curious to see what that will look like for them. And again, it's one, as you mentioned, it's the LeBron meme where anybody coming off a UConn bench, you're just like, oh, here we go. Perfect. But very excited to see what UConn is going to look like, what they'll look like against Boston College today, and honestly, just what college basketball is going to look like as this season as a whole. A lot for us to talk about still, but that's why you get to see us every day. Make sure that you tune back in with us tomorrow. Follow Sophia and I on our socials, and we will see you soon.